Once upon a time. The village and the forbidden road. Jeluma village was a place of harmony, nestled between rolling green hills and vast golden fields. The people lived simple but joyful lives, bound together by ancient traditions that had been passed down for generations. Every morning, the village women gathered at the river, their laughter echoing over the water as they washed clothes and filled their pots. The men tilled the land, harvested crops, and prepared for the bustling markets that connected them to the outside world. But beyond the peace of Jeluma village lay a road that few dared to travel alone. The narrow path to Muba market wound through dense forests and rocky hills, and at the heart of that path lived a giant serpent. Legend spoke of the sacred song, a melody known to every villager, sung to the snake as a plea for safe passage. It was said that as long as a traveler sang the song, the snake would slither away into the shadows, allowing them to pass unharmed. But if a person walked the path in silence, the snake would take them away, never to be seen again. For as long as anyone could remember, the people of Jeluma had followed this tradition, teaching the song to their children as soon as they could speak. It was a rule no one dared to break. The pride of Jeluma. Among the people of Jeluma were two sisters, Nia and Ruto, known far and wide for their striking beauty. Their skin was smooth as polished ebony, their eyes sharp and bright like the morning sun. Whenever they walked through the village, heads turned, and whispers of admiration followed them. For years, Nia and Ruto were the pride of Jeluma, and they knew it. They carried themselves with grace, always adorned in the finest jewelry and embroidered wraps. The village men sought their favor, but the sisters rejected every proposal, saying, "No man is worthy of us yet." Their beauty and confidence had made them almost untouchable until the day Amoni arrived. A new star in the village. Amoni and her family arrived from a distant village, seeking a new home in Jeluma. She was unlike anyone the villagers had ever seen. While Nia and Ruto were tall and elegant, Amoni was small and delicate, with a radiant smile that could warm even the coldest heart. But it wasn't just her beauty that made her stand out. Amoni's kindness was as rare as a pearl found in a riverbed. She greeted everyone with respect, helped the elderly carry their baskets, and played with the village children, telling them stories that left them wide-eyed with wonder. Within weeks, the village was enchanted by Amoni. The same men who once gazed longingly at Nia and Ruto now spoke of Amoni's beauty and gentle spirit. The elders praised her as a gift to Jeluma, and women admired her humility. Nia and Ruto felt their status slipping. At first, they ignored it, believing the villagers would soon return to admiring them. But as days passed, the whispers grew louder. "Have you seen Amoni today?" Someone would say at the market. "She looks like a goddess." Their names, once spoken with reverence, were now fading from conversations. Nia clenched her fist. "She is nothing special," she muttered one evening. But deep inside, she knew the truth. Amoni was becoming the new pride of Jeluma, and it burned like fire in her chest. The Song of the Snake. One evening, the village elders gathered at Amoni's home. Her parents, Tifari and Siti, welcomed them with respect, offering them food and water. "We have come to teach your family the sacred snake song," one elder said, his voice deep and steady. "Every villager must know it. If you ever need to travel to Muba market, this song will protect you." Amoni sat up eagerly, curious about the ancient tradition. But before she could speak, her father, Tifari, shook his head. "We appreciate your wisdom, but our daughter does not need to go to Muba market," he said firmly. "She stays home and helps her mother. If she needs something, we will buy it for her." The elder frowned. "This is not just about going to the market. It is about knowing the ways of our people." Siti, Amoni's mother, touched her husband's arm gently. Perhaps it would be good for Amoni to learn. But Tafari was unmoved. She will never need to walk that road. there is no need for her to learn the song. Reluctantly, the elders left, shaking their heads. Harmony, watching them go, felt a strange unease settle in her heart. She did not know it yet, but this decision would change her fate forever. The seeds of jealousy. The whispers grew louder with each passing day. At first, Nia and Ruto tried to ignore the praises and admiration that followed Harmony everywhere she went. But soon, they couldn't walk through the village without hearing Harmony's name spoken in awe and admiration. She is as graceful as the moon, a young man said at the village well. Her smile is softer than the morning sun, another added. Nia and Ruto couldn't bear it. For years, they had been the pride of Jaluma. The village men had worshipped their beauty, and the women had envied their grace. But now, their names were fading from conversations, replaced by Harmony's. One evening, the sisters sat beneath the great baobab tree behind their home, their faces dark with frustration. "This is unbearable," Nia muttered, her voice low with anger. Ruto crossed her arms. "She walks around, acting so sweet and kind. But I see the truth, she stole everything from us." Nia's fingers dug into the dirt. The men follow her like lost puppies. The elders praise her. Even the children cling to her like she's some kind of queen. She turned to her sister, her eyes sharp and burning. "We cannot let this continue, Ruto. We must do something before she takes everything from us." Ruto hesitated for a moment. She had never seen Nia this angry before. "What can we do?" she asked. Nia's lips curled into a slow, cunning smile. "We will pretend to be her friends. A false friendship." The next morning, Harmony was by the river, humming softly as she filled her water pot. The village women nearby watched her in admiration. "She is so helpful," one of them whispered. "And so humble, unlike some others." Nia and Ruto heard those words as they approached, their faces carefully masked with warm smiles. "Harmony!" Nia called out sweetly. Harmony looked up, surprised. She had never spoken much with Nia and Ruto before, but now they were walking toward her like old friends. "We have been meaning to talk to you," Ruto said, her voice soft and kind. "You are new to Jaluma, and we realized we have not welcomed you properly." Harmony smiled, her heart warming at their kindness. "That is very sweet of you. We were hoping we could spend more time together," Nia added. "You seem like such a wonderful person, and we would love to be your friends." Harmony, trusting and pure-hearted, believed them. She had heard stories of Nia and Ruto's beauty and grace, but she had never expected them to befriend her. "I would love that," she said sincerely. The deception begins. Over the next few days, Nia and Ruto showered Harmony with kindness. They invited her to sit with them at the river, complimented her clothes, and spoke to her as if she were their dearest friend. Harmony, unaware of their hidden jealousy, felt truly accepted. One evening, as they sat beneath the baobab tree, Nia leaned closer to Harmony. "Have you ever been to Milba Market?" she asked casually. Harmony shook her head. "No. My parents always go without me. They say the road is too dangerous." Ruto gasped dramatically. "That is terrible. Milba Market is the most exciting place. There are golden bracelets, colorful fabrics, and delicious treats that you will never find here in Jaluma." Harmony's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "It sounds wonderful." Nia smiled. "Then come with us tomorrow. We are going to Milba Market to buy things for the village festival. You can come along." Harmony's smile faded slightly. I don't know. My parents told me not to leave the village alone." Ruto gently placed a hand on Harmony's arm. "Oh, but you won't be alone. You'll be with us." Nia nodded. "And besides, how will you ever know the beauty of the world if you never see it for yourself?" Harmony hesitated. She wanted to see Muba Market. She wanted to experience the excitement of the bustling stalls, the shimmering fabrics, and the golden jewelry. But deep inside, a small voice whispered a warning. She remembered the narrow road. She remembered the sacred song that she had never learned. My father would be very upset if he knew I left, she said, uncertain. Nia and Ruto exchanged a quick glance, knowing they had to convince her before she backed out. You don't have to tell him, Ruto said smoothly. We will go in the morning and return before he even notices you are gone. Nia grinned. Think about it, Amoni. The festival is coming. Don't you want to choose your own clothes instead of wearing whatever your parents pick? Amoni bit her lip. She had never had the chance to choose her own festival dress before. The idea of picking her own beautiful outfit from the famous Muba Market excited her. Finally, she smiled. All right. I will come with you. Nia and Ruto exchanged a secret, victorious glance. Their plan was working. Amoni had no idea that by agreeing to this journey, she was walking straight into a trap. The betrayal on the forbidden road. The sun had barely risen when Amoni, Nia, and Ruto set off toward Muba Market. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. Birds chirped from the trees, and the village was still waking up as the three girls laughed and chatted along the way. Amoni felt a thrill of excitement. It was her first real adventure, and she was grateful to have Nia and Ruto by her side. We will have the most beautiful festival clothes, Nia said cheerfully. Oh yes, we will make every head turn when we walk through the village, Ruto added, flipping her braided hair over her shoulder. Amoni giggled, feeling lighter than she had in a long time. She had no idea what lay ahead. The path of no return. As they walked, the narrow dirt road became quieter. The trees grew taller and thicker, their branches twisting together like clawed hands, blocking out the sun. Amoni's laughter faded as she felt a strange heaviness in the air. Then, Nia and Ruto stopped talking. Their smiles disappeared, replaced by serious, knowing expressions. And then, without warning, they began to sing. The song was low and melodic, its words unfamiliar to Amoni. Their voices blended in perfect harmony, rising and falling in a haunting rhythm. Amoni froze in confusion. She had never heard this song before. Her mind raced. What was happening? Why were they singing? She turned to Nia and Ruto, expecting an explanation, but they kept walking, their voices steady and unwavering. Then, the ground trembled. The trees shuddered violently. A powerful gust of wind rushed through the path, stirring the leaves into a whirling storm of dust and shadows. Amoni's heart pounded. Something was coming. The monster awakens. Then she saw it. From the shadows of the forest, a massive shape emerged. It was the serpent. Its body was as thick as the largest tree in the village, its scales glistening like blackened gold. Its yellow eyes glowed with ancient knowledge, and its tongue flicked in and out, tasting the air. Amoni's breath itched in her throat. She wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. Then she noticed something. Nia and Ruto kept singing. The serpent's enormous head swayed slightly at the sound of the melody, but its piercing gaze was locked onto Amoni. Amoni opened her mouth to sing, but she didn't know the words. She turned desperately to Nia and Ruto, panic rising in her chest. What is happening? She stammered. Nia and Ruto looked at her but said nothing. They didn't stop singing. They didn't try to help. And in that moment, Amoni realized the truth. They had brought her here knowing she wouldn't survive. Her so-called friends had betrayed her. The snake's judgment. The serpent let out a low, rumbling growl, the sound vibrating through Amoni's bones. It slithered closer. Amoni's hands trembled. Her chest tightened. She had no escape. Nia! Ruto! Help me, she cried. But they just kept singing, standing perfectly still, their eyes cold and distant. The serpent reared back, its massive coils tightening around the trees. Then, it struck. Harmony barely had time to scream before the serpent's mighty tail wrapped around her waist and lifted her into the air. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she kicked and struggled, but the serpent's grip was unbreakable. For a brief moment, she locked eyes with Nia and Ruto, searching for any sign of remorse. There was none. And then, in a blur of motion, the serpent dragged Harmony into the shadows of the forest. She was gone. No remorse. The forest fell silent. Nia and Ruto stood still, watching the place where Harmony had vanished. Then, slowly, their song faded into the wind. The trees stopped shaking. The dust settled. Ruto let out a small sigh of relief. Well, she said, brushing off her clothes. That's taken care of. Nia smirked. Yes. Now, let's go buy our festival dresses. Without another glance back, the two sisters continued down the road, their laughter returning as they stepped back into the sunlight. Harmony was nothing more than a forgotten memory. Harmony's parents' desperate search. The sun was dipping beneath the horizon when Kwame and Zoe returned home, their baskets full of fresh fabric and golden beads from Milba Market. They had spent the day carefully selecting a beautiful outfit for their daughter, imagining how radiant she would look at the festival. But as they stepped through the door, a strange silence greeted them. Harmony! Zoe called, expecting her daughter to rush in with her usual warm smile. There was no answer. She set the baskets down and hurried to Harmony's sleeping mat. It was neatly folded. The water pot was untouched. Harmony was not home. Kwame's face darkened with worry. She never leaves the house without telling us, he said. Where could she be? Zoe's heart began to pound. Something was wrong. The village speaks. Kwame and Zoe ran to the village square, calling out their daughter's name. A group of villagers gathered, whispering amongst themselves. They had seen Harmony earlier that day, walking toward the forbidden road with Nia and Ruto. Zoe's breath caught in her throat. She was with them, she asked, her voice trembling. An elderly woman, carrying a bundle of firewood, nodded. Yes. I saw them go toward the road to Milba Market. Kwame staggered back in shock. She would never go there alone, he muttered. She knows the dangers. The weight of realization hit her like a wave. Harmony had been tricked. Confronting the sisters, Kwame and Zoe stormed toward Nia and Ruto's home, their footsteps heavy with rage and fear. They found the sisters seated outside, admiring their new jewelry. Their laughter faded as they saw Harmony's parents approaching with fury in their eyes. Where is our daughter? Zoe demanded, her voice sharp with desperation. Nia feigned confusion. What do you mean? She was last seen with you, Kwame growled. What happened to her? Ruto forced a laugh. We went to Milba Market, but Harmony never came with us. She must have changed her mind. Zoe's hands clenched into fists. You're lying. Tell us where she is. But the sisters only shook their heads, playing innocent. We don't know, Nia said coldly. Maybe she ran away. Kwame felt his heart shatter. Had these girls really betrayed his daughter? He was about to speak again when a frail voice broke the silence. Mother Ife's revelation. The crowd parted as Mother Ife stepped forward, leaning on her wooden staff. The oldest woman in the village, her wrinkled face carried the wisdom of generations. I saw what happened, she said, her voice steady but filled with sorrow. The villagers fell silent. Zoe turned to her, hope flickering in her tear-filled eyes. What did you see, Mother Ife? The old woman's gaze rested on Nia and Ruto. I was gathering herbs near the road when I saw these two girls singing the sacred song, she began. The crowd gasped. I watched as the serpent appeared, and I saw Amoni struggling in terror because she did not know the song. A single tear slipped down Zai's cheek. Kwame's hands shook with rage. Mother Ife's voice did not waver. I saw them stand still and watch as the serpent took Amoni away. The villagers erupted in shocked whispers. Nia and Ruto's faces drained of color. Lies. Ruto shouted, but fear was creeping into her voice. Mother Ife pointed a bony finger at them. The spirits see all. And now, the gods demand justice. Zai fell to her knees, sobbing. Our daughter. Kwame clenched his fist, his breath coming in sharp gasps. He wanted to strike the two girls, to make them feel even a fraction of the pain they had caused. But violence would not bring Amoni back. Instead, he turned to the village elders, his voice shaking with grief. Tell us, he pleaded. Tell us how we can save our daughter. The elders' guidance. The village elders, wise men with years of knowledge, gathered in a circle. They spoke in hushed tones before the eldest among them, Chief Babu, stepped forward. There is only one way to bring Amoni back, he said solemnly. Kwame and Zoe looked up, desperate for hope. You must go to the serpent's cave, Chief Babu continued. And you must sing the sacred song for 3 days and 3 nights without stopping. A deep hush fell over the village. Zoe's lips trembled. And if we do this, the snake will let her go. The elder's face was grave. The snake does not show mercy easily. But it respects those who prove their devotion. If your love for Amoni is pure and your voices remain strong, the serpent may release her. Zai and Kwame did not hesitate. We will go, Kwame declared. Zai wiped away her tears, determination replacing her sorrow. We will not stop until our daughter is safe. The village watched as Amoni's parents prepared for the journey of a lifetime, a journey that would test their strength, their faith, and their love. And as the night fell over Jeluma village, the air was heavy with both fear and hope. The test of love and sacrifice. The moon hung high in the sky as Kwame and Zoe made their way toward the forbidden road, their hearts weighed with grief but fueled by determination. The village elders and a handful of supportive villagers gathered at the edge of the forest, watching as the couple prepared to face the unknown. The narrow path stretched ahead like a serpent itself, winding into the dark, whispering trees. A strange stillness filled the air, as if the forest was watching, waiting. Kwame held Zoe's hand tightly. No matter what happens, we will not stop singing, he said firmly. Zoe nodded, wiping away her tears. We will bring our daughter home. And with that, they stepped into the darkness. A journey through the shadows. The deeper they ventured, the more the forest seemed to close in around them. The trees twisted unnaturally, their branches reaching out like fingers. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying eerie echoes that sounded like distant voices. But Kwame and Zoe did not let fear take hold. As they reached the entrance to the serpent's cave, they began to sing. The sacred song flowed from their lips, a melody that had protected generations before them. Their voices, though filled with sorrow, carried strength and faith. The cave loomed before them, dark and endless, its entrance shaped like the gaping mouth of a beast. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and something ancient. They did not falter. They sang through the first night, their voices echoing against the cold stone. The forest was alive with sounds, distant growls, rustling leaves, unseen eyes watching from the shadows. But they did not stop. The second night, a test of strength. By the second night, their voices were hoarse, their bodies weak from exhaustion. The cold of the forest crept into their bones, and hunger gnawed at their bellies. Zoe's legs shook beneath her, and she leaned against Kwame. I feel so tired, she whispered. Kwame wrapped his arms around her, keeping her steady. We cannot stop, he murmured. Amani is waiting. The wind howled through the trees, carrying whispers that mocked their suffering. Leave this place, the voices seemed to say. Your child is gone. Turn back before it's too late. But Kwame and Zoe sang louder, stronger, drowning out the voices with their devotion. As the second night faded into morning, the air grew heavier, thick with an unseen presence. Something was listening. The final night, a battle of will. The third night was the hardest. Their bodies ached, their voices strained, and doubt crept into their hearts. Would the snake truly listen? Would Amani ever return? Tears streamed down Zoe's face as she sang, her voice raw with pain. She had never felt so broken, so desperate. But she did not stop. Kwame's hands trembled, but he clutched Zoe's hand, anchoring them both. Then, just as dawn broke, a deep rumbling shook the ground beneath them. The trees shuddered, their leaves trembling like frightened children. The air grew thick and heavy, pressing down on them like an invisible force. And then, the serpent emerged. The serpent's judgment. It slithered from the cave, massive and terrifying, its golden black scales glistening in the morning light. Its yellow eyes burned with ancient wisdom, and its tongue flicked out, tasting the air. For a moment, Kwame and Zoe could not breathe. The snake lowered its head, its enormous body coiling around them in a slow, deliberate motion. The earth seemed to hold its breath. Then, from the darkness of the cave, Amani stepped forward. She was alive. Her eyes, wide with fear, filled with tears of relief as she saw her parents. Mama. Baba, she whispered, her voice shaking. Zoe screamed in joy, rushing forward to grab her daughter. Kwame wrapped them both in his arms, tears streaming down his face. The snake watched in silence. It did not strike. It did not attack. Instead, it uncoiled itself and slowly slithered back into the shadows, disappearing into the depths of its cave. The message was clear. The serpent had accepted their love and sacrifice. Amani was free. A triumphant return. The journey back to the village was one of tears, gratitude, and exhaustion. As Kwame, Zoe, and Amani emerged from the forbidden road, the villagers gasped in shock. Amani was alive. Mother Ife, standing among the crowd, smiled knowingly. Love and sacrifice have won today. The village elders bowed their heads in reverence, acknowledging the strength of parental devotion. But as Zoe looked around, her eyes darkened. There was unfinished justice to be served. Amani had returned, but the ones who had betrayed her still walked free. The time for reckoning had come, the judgment of Nia and Ruto. The village of Joluma had never been so silent. Word spread like wildfire, Amani had returned. By midday, the entire village gathered at the king's palace, their faces a mixture of relief, disbelief, and quiet fury. The grand hall was filled with murmurs, villagers exchanging hushed whispers, waiting for the king's judgment. Kwame and Zoe stood at the center of the crowd, Amani clutched tightly between them, their daughter alive but forever changed by her ordeal. The village elders sat in a circle before the king, their expressions grave. Chief Babu, the eldest among them, spoke first. This morning, the gods have given us a great sign, he said, his voice heavy with authority. Through love and sacrifice, Amani has been saved. A low murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Then Kwame stepped forward, his voice filled with emotion. But let us not forget, my daughter would not have suffered if not for the wickedness of two among us. A hush fell over the palace. Then Zoe's voice rang out, sharp as a blade. Nia and Ruto. Gasps of shock and anger erupted from the villagers. The sisters, who had been standing near the back of the crowd, froze in terror. summoning the guilty. The king, a man of great wisdom and fairness, lifted his hand, silencing the crowd. His dark, piercing eyes settled on Nia and Ruto. "Step forward," he commanded. The sisters hesitated, their hands trembling. They had spent the morning boasting about their new festival dresses, completely unaware of Amoni's return. Now, as they looked at Amoni standing beside her parents, alive, their faces turned pale as death. How had she survived? Nia's legs felt weak beneath her as she stepped forward, Ruto following, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The king's face was dark with fury. "You have been accused of treachery, of betraying an innocent girl, your own kin, to certain death." The villagers murmured in disgust, their once admired beauties now exposed as cruel and heartless. Nia tried to compose herself. "We did nothing wrong," she said, forcing a trembling smile. "Amoni wanted to come with us. It was not our fault that—" "Silence," the king thundered, his voice shaking the very walls of the palace. Nia and Ruto flinched. "You lured her to the forbidden road," Chief Babu said sternly. "You watched her struggle. You let the snake take her, without lifting a finger to save her." The sisters' mouths opened and closed, but no words came out. The truth had already been revealed. There was no escape now. The king's judgment. The king turned to Kwame and Zoe, his voice solemn. "You have faced the wrath of the serpent and emerged victorious. What do you demand as justice?" Kwame's face was stone. Zoe's eyes burned with fury. "We demand that they face the same fate they forced upon our daughter," she said. The king nodded. "Then so be it." He turned to his guards. "Bind them. Take them to the forbidden road. Let them face the serpent, without the sacred song." Nia and Ruto screamed in horror. "Please, Your Majesty," Ruto cried, falling to her knees. "We will do anything, please don't send us there." Nia's breath came in sharp, panicked bursts. "We were foolish. We were jealous. But we did not mean to harm her, please, spare us." The king's face did not waver. "You did not spare Amoni," he said coldly. "You will receive no mercy." The villagers cheered the decision. Justice had come. The guards seized Nia and Ruto, binding their hands and dragging them from the palace. Their once admired faces were now streaked with tears, filled with terror. As they were pulled through the village, the people turned their backs to them, rejecting them as sisters, as daughters, as members of Jeluma. They were nothing now. Nothing but prey. The snake's wrath. The forest was silent when the sisters were thrown onto the forbidden road. Their wrists and ankles were tied, just as they had been told to bind Amoni that day. But there would be no sacred song to save them. The guard stepped back, leaving them there, defenseless. For a moment, there was nothing but the wind. Then, the trees shuddered. A low, rumbling hiss vibrated through the air. Nia's breath caught in her throat. "No, no, please." The earth trembled beneath them. And then, the serpent appeared. Its massive golden black coils slithered through the trees, its enormous body blocking out the sky. Its yellow eyes gleamed like fire as it gazed upon the sisters, flicking its tongue as if savoring the fear in the air. The sisters screamed. But no one came to save them. The serpent reared back and struck. Its massive jaws opened wide, its fangs glistening. And in one swift movement, it swallowed them whole. The forest fell silent. The great serpent, its judgment carried out, slithered back into the shadows, disappearing into the darkness once more. Nia and Ruto were never seen again. Amoni's honor and the moral of the tale. When the news of the sisters' fate reached the village, the people nodded in solemn agreement. Justice had been served. But Amoni's survival was the true miracle. That evening, the village gathered in celebration, not for the loss of Nia and Ruto, but for the return of Harmony. The king stood before the people, raising his hands. "Let this be a lesson for all," he declared. "Jealousy and betrayal will always lead to one's downfall, while love and sacrifice will always bring redemption." The villagers cheered, their voices rising into the night sky like a song of hope. Harmony, now stronger than ever, stood beside her parents, her heart filled with gratitude and wisdom. She had been through darkness and pain, but she had returned with a heart unbroken, a spirit unshaken. She was no longer just the new girl in Joluma. She was Harmony, the girl who survived the serpent's wrath. And her name would be remembered for generations to come. The end.